Demonstrators and trade unionists have taken part in mass street protests across France against Emmanuel Macron's overhaul of labor laws, the first strike action to face the new president. The left-wing CGT union, France's second biggest, called 4,000 strikes and protests on Tuesday, with public sector workers, train staff and energy sector workers joining. Transport was disrupted in Nice, but in Paris delays were limited to 2 commuter lines. The Irish low-cost carrier Ryanair cancelled flights, but other airlines, high-speed trains and Eurostar trains ran as normal. On the edge of the Paris street protests, police fired tear gas after a large group of masked men dressed in black briefly threw projectiles. The day of protest was the first test of whether opposition to Macron's pro-business plans to loosen labor rules, which would make it easier for companies to hire and fire, could bring demonstrators onto the streets. The new president was determined to face down any opposition. The word "lazy" swiftly became the rallying slogan of anti-Macron demonstrators at Tuesday's street protest in Paris, as well as rallies in cities such as Nice, Marseille, Saint-Nazaire, and Caen, where some shouted, "Lazy slackers unite." The turnout, which was lower than last year's demonstrations against the socialist President François Hollande's labor law changes, will serve as a yardstick for trade unions' ability to mobilize against Macron. Deep splits have emerged in the labor movement between those determined to fight the reforms and those prepared to compromise. Crucially, other top unions in France did not take part in the protests, which comforted the government. Macron, a 39-year-old former investment banker and centrist who was elected in May against the far-right Marine Le Pen, is seeking to style himself as a pro-business reformer who would never give in to street protests. His labor law changes are being fast-tracked through Parliament by executive orders. A row broke out this weekend over Macron's strong language after he said in a speech in Athens that he would not yield anything, either to the lazy, the cynics, or the extremes. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest demonstrators take part in a protest called by several French unions against the labor law reform in Paris.